Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. I've just been reading from Genesis chapter 18 about that incident where God told Abraham that he was going to destroy Sodom. And Abraham began pleading with God, but says, Lord, if would you destroy Sodom if there's 50 righteous people there? And God said, no, in that case I wouldn't. And Abraham then starts going down, bargaining God down, really reducing the number until he gets to 10. And he finally gets God to agree that he won't destroy Sodom if there's 10 righteous people there. And in the end, even if he'd bargained it down to 5, it wouldn't have been enough because they could only find 4 righteous people in Sodom. That was Lot and his wife and 2 daughters. So God destroyed Sodom. But what really strikes me is this: how Abraham's attitude towards Sodom, even though this is in the Old Testament, Abraham's attitude towards Sodom is actually more compassionate than many New Testament Christians today. Because Sodom was a tremendously wicked city. There are wicked cities. There are cities in the world today that are renowned for their sin and their wickedness. But I can't think of a single city in the world today where you wouldn't be able to find 10 righteous people. There's even in the wickedest places, you still have strong churches. I know some of the worst cities in the United States, cities who are seen as a byword for sin, and yet you go there and you'll find churches with hundreds of people in it. There's lots of righteous people, and yet here's Abraham, this city that is more wicked than any city I can think of in the world today. And Abraham's not rejoicing over its destruction. Abraham is pleading with God for the city to be spared. How I wish Christians would have that attitude today. Sometimes I hear Christians talking about places where there's a lot of wickedness, and it sounds like they start talking about how God's going to judge it, and they feel like they're really looking forward to it and rubbing their hands with glee at the thought. And yet here's Abraham, someone who's coming before Jesus Christ, who hasn't had all the teaching about loving your enemies, who hasn't been taught any of that stuff. And yet here's Abraham pleading for Sodom to be saved. And I do believe that is something that God should use as a check on our attitudes and our spirits, that we are not to rejoice in the punishment of the wicked. We're to be grieved, even when that punishment is richly deserved. Even when people have brought it upon themselves, we're still not supposed to rejoice in it. We're supposed to mourn for the loss of life. We're supposed to have compassion on our fellow human beings, even those that are committing great wickedness. And so today I would encourage you to think about the most wicked place that you can think of. It might be a city near you. It might be a portion of a city. It might be a particular district, an area where there's a lot of bad practices taking place, a lot of sin taking place. And I'd encourage you to think of wherever that location is and to pray for it. To pray for it with a real, genuine, heartfelt compassion. To pray for it like Abraham prayed for it. To pray for God to shower his mercy and his grace. Not to rejoice in the thought that they're storing up judgment, but to pray for God to move and to change them. Jonah, of course, was an Old Testament figure who seemed to delight in the idea that Nineveh was going to be destroyed. Well, today in our prayer lives, let's make sure that we are more like Abraham and less like Jonah. And I think that's how God would have us to be. God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.